Hail and well met.
Hey.
Welcome to the pregame hangout. We're not actually going to play a new game today. We're going to be rerunning our Westgate Irregulars episode from Saturday as our finale of our Extra Life. So look forward to that. If you weren't able to catch the game, here's your opportunity. Awesome. Also,
aptly named Tomb of Frustrations.
Some of us are here. Some of us are taking much needed rest, but we love you and wanted to hang out with you at least for a little bit. So
love you for
welcome
30 minutes.
everybody.
That's all you get.
Yeah. You get 30 minutes for our love.
But that love continues in the Discord. Be sure to join.
Yep. So we have anything particular to talk about?
See the wolf on my shirt while I'm fussing with my lighting.
Oh,
that's a rad shirt.
yeah.
That's
It's got
awesome.
Pretty cool.
Sort of Feywild kind of vibes, I feel like.
Yeah.
And
The skeleton peeking behind the tree? Or
what?
was that a skeleton peeking out from behind the tree?
No.
Or?
No,
Oh.
it's just
It's like mushrooms or something.
mushrooms.
Oh, okay.
So they could be poisonous mushrooms, very possibly. But
Wow.
It almost reminds me of like a classic Magic card.
Mm.
nope, camera is green. God damn it.
Rumpus says he wonders if Eric can drink his 3-hour quota in 30 minutes.
Chug,
I
chug, chug,
can.
chug.
I'm not sure I should.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, like, if any of you viewers were out there for the Extra Life Marathon, donated money, or just came out and supported, thank you so much. We blew past our goal this year, and it was comfortably, we blew past it comfortably before the end of the night. So thank you.
Yeah, that was amazing. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much, everybody.
And there's still Phoenix Dice still has her discount thing going on. So you can go to her website, phoenixdice.com, or their website, and enter Extra Life as the code when you're checking out, and you'll get 10% off on top of, they have all of these amazing Christmas deals that are just stacked one on top of the other. The more you spend, the more awesome it stacks. And then they will until the 14th, I believe, they will donate 20% of any sales until then.
It's gonna be the 17th.
17th.
Get one last chance to tell people about it next Wednesday.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. So until the 17th, if you use that code, people have been like going to the site and then forgetting to use the code. So use the code, get your extra 10% off, and then 20% of that sale they'll donate to Extra Life on our behalf. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Super
it's
cool
funny.
of them.
She said like 6 people bought a bunch of stuff, but only 2 people used the code that day.
Yeah. So yeah.
See, now I'm on Phoenix Dice's website. All right, you all carry on your own. I'm obviously looking at dice for a while.
Well, I had mentioned before the call, like, there was that announcement that, they're going to be coming out with a 5.5 or possibly 6. They haven't really clarified what it's going to be in 2024. So is there anything you're really hoping becomes like part of the core rules, or any changes or anything like that you're
Pretty sure it's going to be 5.5.
Yeah.
It would be pretty
sure.
silly for WotC to produce the 6th edition at the peak of 5th edition.
right.
Like,
yeah.
I think part of 4th edition's problem is that they launched it a little too early, and it was too different from 3.5. Clearly, they did need to produce a new edition because, corporations still got to make money, right? Still got to print products.
Yep.
But 5th edition is still selling like gangbusters, and, becoming their own competitor would be a bad idea. So I'm predicting with reasonable certainty that we're going to see a 5.5 sort of update. So, but I mean, it is Wizards. They make decisions that none of us can predict all the time. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I think, I think obviously, hopefully they kind of converge all of like the changes to the ranger. I'm sure you'd be happy to see that into like the core rules. All the changes.
Yeah, that would
to
be helpful.
Sorcerers and warlocks and stuff that they did in all
I
the
think there's
cool
no
little...
going back.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
going back.
No.
That genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking it'll probably still be at least ostensibly compatible, that you could still play characters created just with 5th edition rules in this 5.5 era, but 5.5 will make things cooler, more fun. That's my hope. And yeah, I hope the ranger gets advantage on initiative rolls again, because damn, that's pretty great. So
give me an example of something that would make it cooler or more fun.
Cooler. I don't know what would make it cooler, but I do think that there are certain classes that need like a little bit of a bump, you know, like the monk.
Yeah.
I also think that there needs to be some thought around like sorcerers and maybe like expanding their number of spells known a little bit more. Like in Tasha's, all the new subclasses gave sorcerers a bunch more spells known, and that was like, yeah, if you pick that subclass, you would get a lot more spells known, and that was like a breath of fresh air. Do you feel limited?
I don't. Well, I was just going to say I don't particularly feel limited, but that's because I always play sorcerers. So I've never sort of had another kind of spellcaster with like the whole variety of stuff. So I'm like, this is how it always is. I gotta like do things I can do. I'll do it well.
I'll give you a
your
very...
flow chart is a two-pronged flow chart. That's it.
I'll give you a very long shot answer to something that would make it more fun, at least for me. I would like to see them change up the concentration mechanic, because there are so many concentration spells.
Yeah.
And it feels really limiting. I want to be able to, I mean, even if you just kind of removed concentration as part of certain spells, I think that would make a huge difference. Like more spells that just you cast them and then they last for a while. I understand the balance reason, right? You don't want your spellcasters to be too powerful, obviously. But I think they might have erred a little bit too conservative with it. Anyway, that's a very long shot answer. I don't think they're going to do that.
I wonder if there's a way you can do something. Like I occasionally think, you know, like you can basically always, there's all these things that you can do to get an extra attack, but you can never get an extra spell, really. I mean, you can't cast an extra spell as that, right? So like
there are options, but it's very difficult.
Yeah. So it's maybe like if they did like a, you know, a Panera pick 2, where, you know, I mean, you have your full power spell, but then if you do a pick 2, you can cast a lesser version of that spell, and then like another lesser version of this other spell, or like a cantrip or a bonus spell or something like that.
Like a cantrip version of a spell.
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
Like a cantrip magic missile. As a bonus action, you shoot 1 magic missile.
Yeah, why not? And then
Artemisia would be all over that. She'd just be like, I'm like, oh, is that it for your turn? Nope. Zip, zip, zip.
And then people would make fun of me for like pewing things to death, but
I mean, you don't want to do overkill if you don't need to. But I think that
tweaking the action economy. Go a little Pathfinder 2E here.
Yeah. Or like, you know,
I like Pathfinder's solution a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like the bonus action system as much.
Okay. Let me pitch you a thing.
All right. Throw it out.
All right. 2 actions. You could take 2 actions on your turn. But if the second action is an attack, automatic disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of like Pathfinder's system. I kind of like the new system where like you essentially get up to 3 attacks per turn, and then for fighters, rather than getting like more attacks, you can make each of those attacks do more damage and they're more accurate. So it's like you're getting more attacks, damage wise without having to like roll so many dice. And I feel like that's really like the heart of it, is just like the more actions you take, the more dice you have to roll, the longer your turns take.
Yeah. Additional damage is a good way to reduce that, right? Whilst maintaining some balance. So Yang, you were saying earlier about classes that needed a bump. What are your top 3 classes? Top 3 that need a bump?
Probably it's going to be monk, artificer, and toss up between the fighter or the barbarian, but I'm gonna go with the barbarian.
I like how you didn't say ranger, because ranger's too obvious.
Oh, you already heard my thing about ranger, but I feel like they're actually in a pretty good place.
Yeah, with all the changes, they're not bad.
I do actually enjoy playing my ranger a great deal. I mean, he's like murder hobo AF, but like, I just do these ridiculous things, like jump into a gust of wind and then it blows me up into the air and I fire straight down at something with my bow. You know, it's very
That's
fun.
pretty cool. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I remember like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. You said monk, barbarian fighter, and artificer.
Monk, artificer, and then it's a toss-up between a fighter or a barbarian, but I'm gonna go with the barbarian.
What would you do for those classes? I agree with your barbarian over fighter thing, because I think fighter, you could make a pretty optimized fighter pretty easily.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hard to say whether it is that it's the class itself that needs some rework, or it's like their like the key mechanic behind like marshals versus casters that needs to be like slightly tweaked. For me, I think that it's about like the fantasy that you have when you're picking this class. If you want to pick a monk, there's like a certain dream that you have in your head of like the way your character is and how they fight and how they move. And like the question is, can you live that fantasy with these characters while still being like mechanically relevant or equivalent? Can you be not just like trivialized by a skill? And I don't know, the first one that pops into my head is like, once again, rangers and survival, unfortunately. But yeah, like some of the answers for these are just no. Or like barbarians, like the fact that their rage takes up their concentration, and rage is like so limiting for them in order to multi-class with other classes. Like you could dream up certain like warlock barbarian combinations that you could just never really do, because that rage will just screw you.
It makes it real tricky, yeah.
And also, if you play with exhaustion,
it could be done, but it's very limiting. I agree. Yeah, exhaustion is a big hindrance. Yeah.
I will say the one thing I really hope that they do, because I really like minions, is I hope they kind of refine a minion system. Yeah, you too?
That'd be great. That would be great. I would love that. Oh, do you want some suggestions from the DM side of things? I know Yang and I can both comment on this pretty effectively. I think putting in minions would be great. Minions were a thing that was introduced in 4th edition. They were basically, they were mooks, right? Just like cannon fodder that the bad guy threw at you. And they might have a high AC, they might have high damage output, and it was always straight damage. You never rolled damage for a minion. It was just hit 10 damage, hit 15 damage. That was it. And they would always have 1 hit point. So they'd always die in 1 hit. And that made a big difference for DMing 4th edition games, because, you could throw just a bunch of minions and it would make the wizard feel amazing. Like, I have these, AoE effects that will just take out like a huge score of enemies, and, let my fighter and rogue get in there and just big bad guy. But yeah, I'd love to see a return to a minion system. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, and also like not just in combat, but like perhaps like what kind of like, what do they call it, downtime, Like what kind
Mhm.
of downtime activities or systems could minions have? Like could they help you earn more gold? Can they help you scout? Is there like a table for activities that they can also do for downtime? Because especially as we get like more powerful, we are inevitably going to be getting followers.
Right. Oh man, a
Oh.
really slick follower system would be really cool.
Yeah, I see that there's some suggestions from chat that I like to highlight because I think they're really good ideas too. So like Rumpus, suggests that the monk should have some more crowd control, like
Mhm.
variations on trips and shoves, etc. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea. There's also like one particular thing that I really wish they would give monks, which is like the ability to move enemies against their will while tracking that enemy. Like if you've ever
Yeah.
watched a martial arts movie and you've seen somebody like kick somebody across the room, but then like as they kick them across the room and that person's flying, they're like on top of them, just like punching them over and over, like DBZ style.
I want to bicycle kick somebody. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you do your like flurry of blows. So basically you could basically zip in, like target a wizard or something, like send them 15 feet out of the crowd, away from their protectors, attacking them the whole while. Like
Yeah.
that would be cool.
That
would
should
be pretty
really
sweet.
just be a class feature. Like
It should.
the monk should say, if you move someone with one of your class abilities, you can move to follow them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Each attack, like you push and you move with them. You push and you move with
Or
them.
it could just be every time you hit an enemy, you can move 5 feet without provoking opportunity attacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then if you're able to start pushing them, like that ability will just overlap with it. And it really enhances the mobility of your monk, right?
Yeah. Especially
You're
if you
just
have some of the
constantly
flyer.
in motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have one of the flying ability variants, like you can just launch them straight up into the sky, like just for like whatever style or, shenanigans. It would be great.
Yeah. There should also be a class ability where you turn into an arcade machine and drop on them. Wait, hold on. I think I might have gone too far. Anyway.
Okay. But then what about
That's my
something
Mortal
like
Kombat joke for the Hangout. All right.
Yeah. But even like a combo system, like for a monk, the first hit, deals your whatever proficiency bonus and damage. The second hit deals proficiency bonus ×2. Just like et cetera, et cetera. Give you that feel of being a monk and just hitting things, moving things around them, and like just doing these crazy combos on people, styling all over them.
Oh man, I really like the term combo system.
Yeah, combo.
Okay, so about a year ago, I told a couple of friends of mine that I would eventually run a Mortal Kombat D&D game for them. And I think that would be amazing. Like I have some ideas. I think martial arts should just be a thing that anyone can take. It doesn't have to be a monk thing. But in order for that to be the case, you need to make that not the iconic feature of a monk. The iconic feature of a monk should be that mobility and battlefield control, even if the battlefield control is just limited to 1 or 2 targets at a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I oftentimes think of the monk as like the ultimate class in dealing with messy battlefields. So like if there are a lot of pit traps, if there's like burning oil fires, they're the class that could deal with it. Oh, walls, like if there's archers firing down at you from like a really high wall, like a monk is really good at dealing with that sort of stuff. But oftentimes that's just not the setup.
Yeah.
I also wish that clerics had more, or at least I sometimes wish that my available spells included more things that were not combat or healing related. So like things that give opportunity for fun role play or, crowd control or, as a clearic, proselytizing, like maybe bringing people over to my side or, I don't know, or imbuing people with holiness or I don't know, but or like creating
So you want a little
of life energy,
a little more support, a little more support outside of combat.
Yeah, like I love my calm emotion spell. I love the control water spell, and I love the stone meld I use often, right? But there's not a lot like those options for a cleric. I find
Because the cleric is riddled with buff magic. Like you got
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff that you could cast to support people.
Yeah.
But it kind of seems like they have
But if you're not in combat, then
yeah. Like because the out of combat experience is very important to D&D as well.
yeah.
One of the common misconceptions about fourth edition. I don't know why this hangout turned out about fourth edition. I'm sorry.
You're
I'm
taking
sorry,
it there,
everybody.
Eric. You're taking
I'm
it
sorry.
there.
I'm taking it there. Anyway, one of the common misconceptions about fourth edition is that it's just a combat, simulator tactical game, which I mean, to an extent, it does have a very tactical simulator sort of feel, but it's mostly because they spent a whole huge amount of time in the book about combat because their combat mechanics were so complicated. And, given classes just had like a huge set of abilities. They were trying to make things more diverse and give you more options in combat to feel like you were not just I attack, that's my round, I attack, that's my round, I attack, that's my round. They would try to give you more things to do, but it just came off as suggesting that the game was about combat, and it really shouldn't be. D&D shouldn't be just combat. It should be combat, exploration, and RP, right?
Speaking of Rhiannon, didn't you have like a architecture or an archaeologist world building giveaway in the
I was
extra life?
like,
Oh.
what do you? Well, actually, I mean, at work we have architectural historians. I
Yeah.
am not one, but it's not so strange a category. No, nobody was needed anything that specific. So, when you need it, you really, really need it. But
Yeah.
I feel like for when you're like a writer and you're like, oh, there's planning stages or like writing stages or revising stages or whatever, you don't necessarily need it. Like, well, I mean, I guess you might need it on revision. Some people are brave enough to be like, I revised my entire world. Now the culture is different. So you only need it at the particular stage. So
What was the
Mhm.
coolest like thing that came into your silver books that probably wouldn't have been there if you had not been in archaeology? Like your wolf stories.
I mean, so I did a lot with their origin like stories. Well, I say origin story, it sounds like comics, but their creation stories in their religion. And I wish it wasn't out at the time that I was doing the silver books, and totally unrelated to archaeology. There's a guy who studied wolf behavior in Yellowstone. And there's 3 books. I think the 3rd one is coming out. And so he followed the packs after introduction, which was in like 1997 or something. And so he wrote this series of books that's basically just following the sort of story from introduction to death of like 3 different pack alphas, but it ends up being about the whole pack. And it's just like absolutely stuffed with really cool information, and it's all his observations. Like you can sort of sense that this is a guy who like takes really meticulous notes, but he structures them around the personalities of the wolves in these different groups. And I would have loved to like put some of that in, because of course like a decent number of people sort of like have kind of heard that maybe like the alpha omega thing, like that's not really a thing, like, but a lot of people I think don't know what the actual truth is. So I feel like here I want to look up what the
I've
like
name
you're
of
gonna
that.
start a
so
website.
much about wolves from you.
Yeah, seriously.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Wolftruth.com.
I thought I knew wolves, but then I met Rhiannon.
So to our like 25 people hanging out with us, highly recommend it's the 2nd book in the series, but it's a great sort of entry because it's the most sort of cool wolf of the 3. The Reign of Wolf 21 by Rick McIntyre. And so then there's the Rise of Wolf 8 is the first one, and then the Redemption of Wolf 302 is the one that is either just out or coming soon.
I love the names. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the great thing about it is that both Wolf 8 and Wolf 21 are really known for being very powerful, but yet playful and great with the pups, and always willing to sort of like be silly and work things out that way rather than going for like the kill. And if you're gonna like correct the assumption about how alphas are assholes, it's Wolf 21 is like the biggest, best example of how that is untrue, and like him taking care of his kids, and also like kids of another wolf that like came in and got with his daughters, and he's like, nah, I raised these kids. They're part of my pack.
Yeah, the whole alpha wolf thing is really, really interesting. Like, I mean, how it's permeated society, and it's all based on kind of a misunderstanding, but it's complicated, right? Wolf behavior. So fascinating stuff.
That's
now we're gonna find out Sarshan has a bunch of little pups that he's been taking care of.
Yeah, but that's not so like that sort of thing is not surprising to me, because like Stockholm syndrome is just absolute BS.
Yeah,
And like if you
totally
know
not a
about the
thing.
history behind Stockholm syndrome, like you would just be so angry why Hollywood continues to even persist in its
Pretend
usage.
that it's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was explaining that to my parents the other day, because like they're highly educated, and I was like, you know, that's not a thing, and they're like, yeah, we heard that you can't really diagnose it. I'm like, no, like go back to the original story. It is not a thing at all in any way.
Yeah. Stupid doctor made it up. Everybody just continues to propagate it for whatever reason.
Did they have Fox News back then? That's amazing.
I mean, the thing is, when you have a high int stat, all that really means is that when you get fooled by something, it's harder to talk you out of it. That's really what it means, right?
Yeah. I guess I shouldn't say stupid doctor. I should say unscrupulous doctor came up with this term in order to, I don't know what the right term is, like warp public perception of this victim of a kidnapping, or not a kidnapping, a hostage situation.
Yeah, it was a hostage situation. My understanding was that there was an aspect of like those hysterical females too.
Yes,
that,
totally.
Like the hostages were like, well, no, you've got the situation wrong, like, and maybe you can actually negotiate with this dude. And the you know, manly men in authority were like, oh well, those women, there must be something wrong with them. They're not agreeing with us.
Yeah, I think there was also some element of like the robber had a handgun, but then the police all had like rifles pointed at the building outside, and so like the hostage was like, whoa, police, like de-escalate please, because like you make me feel afraid. Like this hostage taker is actually being kind of reasonable, all they want is money. Now we're in this like super tense like life or death situation. Like why all the guns? And so then the doctor was like, oh no, she's being psychologically manipulated by the hostage taker. This is like totally a thing that I've seen occur many times in my life. It's called Stockholm syndrome, blah, blah, blah. And Hollywood was like, we like this.
I mean, let's
put it in every movie.
It's a great narrative trick, right? But, you know, it's just based on something silly. Like, you only use 10% of your brain. What if you used more than 10% of your brain? That's nonsense. You obviously use more than 10% of your brain, but Hollywood took it and ran with it.
10.2.
So we're kind of brushing against the time. There's like a couple of things I want to say real quick, just because like,
okay, good. So go for it.
Back to 5.5, you know, Umbra says as a druid, they hope that there's a book of improved beast lists. Like I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. They need to update that. Like, whoa. Also, I mean, you know, alternate idea. Like, just give Druid wild shape points, like Monk has key points, and then they could like spend more to turn into a higher CR of creature, like 1 time a day, versus like multiple castings of like a squirrel. Because like if I got 3 wild shapes, why am I ever going to turn into a squirrel unless it's for nonsense? But nonsense is very important.
And you get through a small hole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Nice.
If you don't eat these nuts, this village will burn. Yeah. So yeah, thank you all again for your amazing support of the Extra Life this past weekend. Not thank you to Eric for putting us through the torture of Tomb of Horrors, which you will now be able to enjoy if you missed it the first time around. And that will be, and it ends on a cliffhanger, so to be continued next Wednesday live. Right. And then and again, check out phoenixdice.com, Extra Life. Put in Extra Life to get 10% off on top of all their awesome deals, and they'll give a bit of that money to Extra Life as well.
Man, I feel like I didn't have like enough to say about 5.5, and now that you got me going, I'm like, wait, there's still more.
I know.
We must go.
We'll think about it next week. Good chat.
Tune in next week, and we'll have more to say.
Rant.
You actually made good progress in the Tomb of Horrors, as people who are watching the stream will see. So,
yeah.
You didn't all die. I expected at least one of you to die, and it didn't happen. So,
do I get my necklace of adaptation back? That's what I want to know.
No.
Sorry.
See, I knew we shouldn't have put it in the thing.
Anyway,
Okay.
All right. Well, enjoy everybody, and we'll see you next week. So,
yeah, next week. Hop on our
take
Discord
care.
to join.
Stay scrawly.
Stay scrolling.
Bye.